All right, and then Nicholas, do you have
we would like to welcome you to our January 20th board meeting.
Visitors are always welcome at our board meeting. So that the meeting may proceed uninterrupted, please silence all electronic devices.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Boynton,
Here.
Mrs. Birch,
Present.
Mr. Akins.
Present.
Ms. Stan for the pledge of allegiance, please. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So now we will have awards, presentation, and communication.
Thank you, Mrs. Boynton. Good evening, board members, and those of you who are here with us this evening. Thank you for being here. As some of you are aware, January is always recognized as Board Appreciation Month, and my apologies for a little mix-up in the time, but we do have a couple of special things for you, and we may have to, if you don't mind, Madam President, if we interrupt when the other students get here. They were told, I think, an incorrect time, and there was some miscommunication. So if we might interject at some point, there's a musical performance for you. So my apologies. Great. In the meantime, what I'd like to do is ask, I have 3 members of Soup's Troops here this evening, Anara, Anna, and Sydney, and they are going to have something for you and read a proclamation for the Board Appreciation Month. But before we do that, we have just a very short little video for you. So Mr. Humphrey, if you could please.
What is a school board? Do you know what a school board is?
What is the school board?
Do you know what a school board is or what a school board does? They're a group of people who are elected by adults and they help to run the school district. So, can you tell them about what your day is like here at Central? What?
Fun. And fun to learn. Thank you for having us here so we can learn and be smart.
What would you want them to know about your day at Central? What you like about Central? What makes Central a good school?
I would like them to know that we always treat people with respect and know what, and then we always listen to whatever we do or something. We listen.
Okay. And what's your favorite part of being at Central?
Learning. Teachers and staff, they all love students. And everybody loves them. Thank you, Mrs. Boynton. Thank you, Mrs. Birch. Thank you, Mr. Aiken. Thank you, Mrs. Franklin. Thank you, Mrs. Powder.
babes. Gotta love it. And thank you to Denise who went out and recorded that, and the students for participating. So just kind of a little cute start to the month. Well, we're halfway through the month, but for your appreciation. Next, I'd like to have Anna is going to read. They were really fighting over who would be able to read this, right? Ladies. So it was like pulling teeth. But yes, Anna, if you could please go to the microphone. Thank you.
Whereas it should be the mission of Bedford City School District to provide all students with the best possible education, and whereas the school board sets a direction for our community's public school by envisioning the community's education future, and whereas the school board sets policies and procedures to govern all aspects of the school district operations, and whereas the school board keeps attention focused on progress towards the school district's goals and maintains a two-way common communication loop with all segments of the community. And whereas serving on the school board requires an unselfish devotion of time and service to carry on the mission and business of the school district. And whereas the school board must respond on behalf of the community to the educational needs of students. And whereas the school board voluntarily accepts the above-mentioned responsibilities. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Anna Velp, on behalf of Dr. Silico, hereby proclaim January 2022 as School Board Recognition Month in Bedford City School District. I encourage all citizens to publicly and privately thank the school board members serving this community for the dedication service to our children. Thank you.
Ladies, if you could help Anna and deliver the gifts. It's Anara and Sydney and Anna. Oh, over here. And she got her chocolate. And the extras I will give to our other two board members who are not here. Did everyone? Nope. Okay. You can put those over there, Sid. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And Sydney's going to hang around because she has a role to play later for her music performance. So thank you, ladies. And if I just may, again, we will interrupt when our students come. And again, my apologies. But I would like to just say, one, kind of thank you in advance for the two of you who are taking this on. This is what you get to look forward to every January. I try to involve the children in the process because that's why we're all here. So it's nice to include them. We've done other things where our classes have made jewelry or some other things. But we thought we would have them here this evening. And we also, as I had mentioned, we have a small group of students coming to play for you. The strings are coming. So, and Mrs. Boynton, for you who've been here a couple years, thank you for your work. I know I just came back from a meeting in Columbus, and they had the OSBA executive director there speaking, and he's the one who represents school boards, and was just talking about across the state how difficult of a role it has been when we're talking about masking and remote learning and CRT and the different pressures that boards are getting, along with superintendents, of course. We're all in this together. And so just what a hard job it has become, and just that we don't always get thanked for the roles that you do and the time that you dedicate to our students. So thank you in advance to all of you as you embark on your new journey, and thank you, Mrs. Boynton, and I know Mrs. Patterson and Mrs. Macklin as well. So girls, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and we can move forward. So thank you again.
And now, on the agenda, 2.02, presentation on the air purifiers.
Mr. Sid, you want to come over with me?
Thank you. It's all right, but thank you. Thanks, Ms. Wolf. Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right. Board President Boynton, Vice President Mrs. Birch, thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to present here. Mr. Akins, Dr. Selico, really just wanted to welcome you before I get started and fill you in on where we are at with our air purification project. With me here tonight, I have Dave Smith with Gardner, who is out of Hudson, and Gardner has the current contract with Ohio Schools Council that we are pursuing to install a product called bipolar ionization that will impact every one of our rooms that are currently occupied by students and staff, with the exception of maintenance and transportation. So we've actually been working on this project for some time. So we started last year in March demoing units in 2 of our classrooms in Glendale and Central. And the indoor air qualification products, as we presented in November, there are several of them. And some of them are standard filters, some of them are what we call photocatalytic oxidation. There's a lot of big words, and Dave is why he's here, so he can help me with these big terms. But we had originally tried some of those units, and eventually as we got to the engineering phase with those, one of the issues we ran into was they required maintenance. So when you looked at putting these on the wall, every 2 years you would have to replace a cell. And so that brought the overall project cost over a period of 10 years to a much larger amount than we wanted to spend. So at that time we started talking in our Ohio Schools Council meetings, and I ran into many suggestions that we pursue Gardner as a vendor for this project. They've done projects at Brecksville, Garfield Heights, Maple, Mentor, East Cleveland, all turnkey products, which is what we are going to be proposing to you at the next board meeting that we move forward with. So as of December 13th, their engineers were here in the district going through all of our classrooms, all of our needs, looking at our HVAC units and air handlers. And as of last week, we were able to get the Ohio Schools Council to update their cooperative group purchasing contract so that we can get the products that Gardner felt we needed. And as of this week, we now have that proposal and we are ready to begin. So I want to go ahead and give you that timeline, and if you have any further questions for me or Dave, we're here to answer them for you.
Yes. Outside of the every 2 years replacement of the cell, is there any other maintenance that will fall sooner than that, like monthly, quarterly, anything like that?
Well, thank you for that question, because I do want to clarify that we moved away from that product due to the maintenance, to the bipolar ionization, which has a 10-year life cycle. So aside from the original sticker price, which is right around the same, we won't have to pay any of those maintenance fees. So this should last the durations of, in particular, some of our buildings that we may not have forever.
So, I'm understanding correctly, where will these units be put in directly? Are they in the classrooms, or is this something that just is on the roof?
Did you want to explain how your engineers
Sure.
evaluated that?
We don't, you typically don't go based off of a classroom, you go based off of your units that are serving the classrooms. You may have air handling units, one air handling unit may be serving 6 classrooms, so that bipolar ionization bar would go in that particular air handling unit that would then serve those 6 classrooms. So it just depends based off of what the infrastructure allows you to do. You may run into some classrooms where you have univents. In that particular situation, you're putting an ionization puck in that particular univent. If you have VAV boxes, that's typically going up inside of the air handling units that are serving those VAV boxes. The same thing with rooftop units. But it's essentially taking care of all your occupied spaces.
And this is at all schools, not just at Central, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
James, did we decide, what school we was gonna start with? Because I just look at the number of people that are out because of the pandemic at particular schools, so have we prioritized which school we're starting with? I guess I don't know how long it's gonna take for all the schools to be equipped with the purifiers.
Yes, we have started those discussions, and I think it will work out in our favor because we can start based on product availability. And Dave, if this has changed, let me know. But the puck, as he mentioned, that goes in the univents were available more quickly. So within a couple weeks, we can get those in hand, and those will serve our primary buildings primarily because we have more univents in those buildings. So we can start with those, and we will be able to work in second shifts. So we will be able to do those on a day-to-day basis while we're having school. So we won't have to wait until there's a break. So to answer your question, we can prioritize those buildings that need it.
I just have an additional, when we look at talking about Heskett, for instance, does the roofing and what's at Heskett right now, is that also affecting the air? And are there gonna be, units on top of the roof at Heskett?
Heskett is all rooftop units. When we look at the leak problems in Heskett, if those are causing things like mold and bacteria, and Dave, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if those are things that are happening as a result of moisture from the leaks, then this air purification will help with that, because it also addresses allergens and other contaminants. They would be installed in those rooftop units, the air purification products.
Okay. And I just have one last question, for Mr.
Smith.
Mr. Smith. So, I know you were working in some of the neighboring schools, so did you do some purification for those schools or with some other project? Just curious.
No, the schools that he named were all air purification. Matter of fact, they were all bipolar air ionization.
And they're all completed, right? So if I wanted to tour just to see what it
Oh,
what
yeah.
it's like.
Yeah, we could take you up to East Cleveland, over to Garfield, Maple Heights, as well. So some of the surrounding districts, so it wouldn't be too far for you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions, Dale? All right. Thank you so much, James and Mr. Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Next on the agenda is 2.03, strategic plan.
Thank you, Mrs. Boynton. Would like to just provide you with a brief overview of our strategic plan, and then I'm going to turn it over to our facilitators, who are going to give you a brief synopsis of the work that they've been doing thus far. So I know, pardon me if this is redundant, I'm not sure, I just want to catch you up to speed. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the history of this, but we had one strategic plan that was completed, and we started our second plan early in the spring of 2020. And that, if you know what happened in the spring of 2020, which was COVID, hit, and it kind of delayed our progress, and it made it difficult because typically we did contract with Advocacy and Communication Solutions, ACS, and normally they would have facilitated focus groups and been able to meet with us face to face, which in their eyes is it's a better approach. And since we weren't able to do that, there were some delays, and a lot of it was done via virtually. So what they did is they came and met with the team, first with me, I believe, and then other members of our team and cabinet, and got some feedback, and worked with us on a number of engagement activities. So in order to create our plan, we have always had stakeholder input, and so with that we had interviews of the board members at the time. We had our community leadership, our mayors and city managers were interviewed. We had a community survey that went out, and that was delivered via email and newsletter, and I have that actually here with me. We shared with partners to figure out how we could increase the distribution of that, because we did email it to parents, which reaches a lot of people, but we also have a community at large. And so what we did is we had in our Your Schools, which is delivered to every home, we had it in 3 different updates of the strategic plan in 3 different issues. But this was the one that went out to parents, or to everybody, every community member, and it gives you the link to participate in a survey online to offer your input, or if you wanted to fill it out, you were able to send it in, and we actually did get a few people that sent it in for their feedback. So they were asked a variety of questions about the school, and were able to again give their input. During that time also we had a number of focus groups, which included union leadership, principals, department leaderships, education and administration, student focus group, and my superintendent's advisory council members were asked for their input as well. We did have some successes emerge, as well as challenges from again, they take all of this information and synthesize the data, and as a result they identified our successes, which were noted by our constituents as being fiscal responsibility, graduation rate, and our high quality preschool. Our challenges, as one would guess, with just about every district we have around, is a report card, is a reflection of our performance. Our facilities was named as a challenge, and staff and educator fatigue, which outreach. I have been doing this for a number of years, been involved in strategic planning for probably 20, and I've never seen that come out as a challenge. So I think it's a sign of the times. I think it's, obviously what's happening as a result of COVID and some other things. But those were identified as challenges. We then emerged from all of that, again, were the 4 goal areas, and those included student achievement and long-term success, and that's led by Felice Willis and Katie Tomko, both of which were unable to be here, but they do have a video update for you. Our next is equity and social justice, and that is led by Kenneth Elder and Sam Vaughters. They're both here this evening. Communication and engagement, which is led by Denise Dick, and Dan, I think, is been recruited. He's been recruited elsewhere, but I do believe helping out with that as well still. And then we have facilities, technology, and safety, which is led by James Meyer, and he's recruited Thad and Dan, and am I missing anyone?
Phil.
And Phil Stevens. So again, we want to once again say to the community, we appreciate the feedback that you have given, but if you want to continue to be part of this conversation in any one of these goal areas that you'll hear about a little bit more in depth tonight, we invite you to do that. That could be parents, that could be community members. We do have some, I believe on every committee we have representation of a parent or community member, and if I'm not getting that right when you guys speak, you can let us know if I'm misspeaking, but when I think of the groups, I think I have seen representation outside of school officials. And we also have invited every staff member to participate. That's classified, certified, etc. The meetings are every second Monday of the month, and they're on Tuesdays if there's no school. And the reason we've done that is that we've tried to bring consistency to our meetings. That is a negotiated agreement with the teachers on nights that they have meetings. And so what we've done is we standardize our meetings. So the first meeting is Monday of the month is a staff meeting, second is strategic planning, the third is professional development, and the fourth is building leadership teams. So that's how we came to pick those evenings. And most of the groups are starting at 4 o'clock, which I know can be a challenge for some people, and the other one of the groups starts at 3:30, but they will tell you which starting time that is, and we are doing them virtually now, which sometimes is easier to get people on board if they can, then it's not that they have to physically come at that time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our leaders of our group, and then I believe, Dan, if you want to start with student achievement, seeing as though that's most important why we're here, right? So if we could begin that. And this is Felice and Katie. Thanks, Dan.
Hi, everyone. Felice Willis and Katie Tomko are here to share information with you regarding Goal 1 on the strategic plan, which is increasing student achievement and long-term success. We do have a handout to share with everyone in regards to who is on our committee and our subcommittees, as well as our meeting dates and times that will be shared with you. So when we met, we wanted to talk about an overview of the changes that have been made to goal number 1. So to share those, 2.1 was moved over into our goal, which is provide culturally responsive, equity-based, and relevant professional development for teachers, staff, and administrators. We also moved 1.4 to goal 4, which was increasing opportunities for stakeholders to access trainings and events that support their ability to utilize state-of-the-art technology, equipment, and facilities. And then we did eliminate strategy 1.5, which was utilize UDL framework to assigning staff to provide high-quality instruction for all students, as that's a practice that's already taken place in the district. So one of the first things that we're going to talk about is the expansion of preschool and CTE, and I will go ahead and just give you an overview of the preschool expansion opportunities. So we did have Katie Brandt join us in our December strategic planning meeting, and who is our current staff member who's overseeing our preschool programming. So she had the opportunity to share with the group the practices and programs that we already had in place for preschool. And then as a subcommittee, we are going to continue to meet to talk about what opportunities we have for expansion and put a proposal together to provide to cabinet at a later date. So I'm going to pass it over to Felice, who will also be talking about expansion, but in regards to CTE.
So you can see in 1.3 that these two programs are mentioned. So those are the preschool and the career tech are the areas that we chose to focus on for right now. As you can see, many of the strategies listed here are very time consuming and are, will result in district-wide initiatives. And so we chose to do a little bit of chunking here and focus on 1.3 because this is the time of the year when we are preparing at the district level for expansion that we may see in the 22-23 school year. So for the career technical expansion, we had Katrina Myers come to our committee meeting. She's the coordinator of the Tri-Heights Career Tech Consortium. She came and shared with us the federal and state guidelines around expanding and some of the parameters under which we would need to comply in order to propose career tech expansion. She also gave us an overview of the programs that we share with the other 4 districts and a little bit about our current enrollment. Ironically, the Career Tech Consortium is in the midst of a strategic plan of their own under the leadership of Selena Roebuck, and they are right now currently during the month of January conducting some focus groups. And so what we did within our committee was seek some volunteers who wanted to participate in the Career Tech strategic plan. So now we have several of our committee members who have already attended a focus group with Selena and provided some input on behalf of our Bedford strategic plan committee for Goal 1. And then as that strategic plan for the Career Tech Consortium continues to develop, we will continue to have membership on that strategic plan who will bring back information to us and will in turn take information from this committee to that strategic plan group. So our committee members will sort of serve as the conduit between the 2 strategic plans, and as Ms. Myers pretty much guaranteed us, they will be indeed talking about expansion of appropriate courses depending on what our business statistics look like, and they will be talking about access, taking a look at master schedules, and some barriers that exist right now so that the students who are interested in participating in Career Tech will have access to those programs. And so it fits really well into this goal, but there was no reason to duplicate the work. So we're instead going to sort of piggyback off of their work. And then if you look at the other strategies that we have listed there, you'll see under the progress category that we have 2.1 greened out, meaning that we are on track exactly. And have pretty much already accomplished what we wanted to accomplish in year 1 under this goal of providing professional development to teachers. On each of our district PD days this year already, August, October, and coming up here in March, we have provided teachers with professional development around social emotional learning and how it overlaps with the universal design framework that we gave them extensive professional development on last year. And so we will continue around those same topics in our professional development, but we felt as though we could indicate a green progress measure there because we have 100% of our staff, teachers, administrators, even our paraprofessionals and some other classified members participating in all of the PD that we're offering relative to those topics. The 1.1 kind of ties directly to 2.1. It's really around the implementation and monitoring, how we are actually implementing the professional development that has been deployed in the district. And so we indicated yellow there because that's in progress, right? We continue to, as we offer professional development, monitor classrooms through walkthroughs, through the OTES process, and through feedback from teachers and administrators as far as the success of the implementation around the UDL, the multi-tiered systems, and our PBIS, positive behavioral intervention supports. And then the 1.2, we have started to tap into that one as well. This is about engaging stakeholders to give us some feedback on the course offerings and extracurricular activities that we have for students. And so again, at our January meeting, we have a subgroup that was interested in pursuing this one further. Again, prime time to be talking about proposals for course offerings and expansions. And so we have a survey in draft form right now that we are intending to send out hopefully in March. So our subcommittee, we already have one draft, but we wanted to continue to take a closer look at those questions and put some things a little bit more appropriate to middle school and elementary also. And so we're going to take the month of February to do that work, bring that back to the whole committee in March, and then hopefully be able to administer that survey to teachers and community members in March so that we can take that feedback into consideration as we plan for the 22-23 school year. So I feel like that pretty much summarizes the work of this committee. Again, we will be meeting in subgroups in February and then back to a whole group meeting in March, and you'll see all of that indicated on the handout that you received. As Katie mentioned earlier, we feel as though we are progressing nicely. You can see from our progress chart that we are green and yellow, and pretty proud of that considering all of the things that have been going on in our community and our district this year. And so if you have any further questions about anything that we've mentioned, we'd be happy to have you reach out to us. Thanks very much for having us this evening. Good night.
Dan, if I may, if you could just leave it up for one moment, if I could point out to the board, as Felice did reference, the yellow and the green. So what we do is every subcommittee, every committee has this same document with their own goals and strategies, and the way we progress monitor this plan is by having that column where it says progress. So what they're showing you with the yellow is that they're in work, that's in progress right now, they're working on it. Green would be close to completion. If you see red, that means they haven't started that goal area yet. So that's how we monitor the work that we do and hold each other accountable for making sure that these things get completed. And so if you have any questions for Mrs. Willis or Mrs. Tonick, I'll be glad to take those, and I can relay that and get you more information.
I have one question right now. How did they decide to delete some of the areas?
Okay, so you may find that in all the groups, actually. So when we worked with ACS, they were the ones who constructed some of the goals for us. Now, we knew that we were probably not going to keep them all. One, because they're not in the district and the culture and knowing what our needs are specifically. They heard feedback, but some of them didn't always make sense. So we either revised or deleted or created. They've been given the autonomy to create other goals that they see fit that we would want to work towards. So you'll see that with all 4 areas.
So how did it affect our strategic plan since we hired those folks to help us with it? How was it?
Well,
I just wanted to know that.
Yeah, their role is to consult and guide us. They knew up front that we were going to be making modifications, but this was their jump start to get us a good solid plan. And their biggest role was really soliciting input from stakeholders and focus groups and helping us create goals. I've never seen a strategic plan, and I've worked with a few different consultants, actually create the action steps and strategies that you see there. They're more about the big picture. So that was a little stretch for them to be doing our strategies, frankly. And they knew that, but they wanted to get us started.
So my question is, why was goal 2 taken from, I believe that was the social justice? Why was that one taken over to this side? I mean, I understand it's the achievement aspect of it as well, but is social justice goal 2 still going to work and plan on that or give some input with that?
Yeah, and maybe that group can address that when they speak, but we do meet, so we meet at cabinet and then we also meet at an all administrators meeting, and we have discussions about our strategic plan. And one of the things that emerged was that they were seeing some overlap in their areas, and so before they went ahead and forged on one area, they met as colleagues in our groups, the heads, and said, hey, does this fit with you? Is it better here or there? So they had those discussions, and they might have reworked some of those things, and some of these subcommittees might be working in tandem.
Okay.
So you might see some of that still, you might be included with that, and Mr. Elder will address that. But yes, that's a good question. Okay, so
I have one more question. First of all, I'm sorry they couldn't be here. I would like to see people in person, but I do understand things come up, so next time maybe they can be here in person. I would like to know the makeup of the CT community members. I just wanted to know what the makeup looked like. Was it community members from maybe all the communities we're serving? Do you know? She said she had several community members involved. What does that look like?
I'm not quite sure. The strategic plan that she referred to, though, will be all the communities and their input. The broader CTE one, I'm not sure for this one. I can get you that information.
We'll just have that down,
Yeah.
some of my questions to ask, if I would like to see who's volunteering and how this time is working for the people in the community. It doesn't work very well for me, but I just wanted to see if it was who it was working for. And,
If you have more, Mrs. Blanchard, I can give it to me and I'll get you the answers.
all right. Anthony, do you have any questions? Anyone else for you? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Elder and Mr. Butters? This is our social justice and equity.
Your students are here, so I don't know.
Oh, they are? Then yes, let's send them in.
I don't think any warmed up for now.
Send them in.
Thank you.
Okay, should we check, Mr. Meyer? Yeah, thanks.
I think you guys have this. I wasn't sure, so I just made a couple more copies. Suraj, come on up.
Wow, it is a big instrument. Wondering.
So I don't know if you guys want me to wait till after they're set up.
Yes, it looks like they're ready, so if you don't mind pausing there, thank you, Mr. Elder.
Everybody, play ready for me?
Mr. Nichols, thank you.
And your D's. D's. C's. Okay, well, here we are this evening in this beautiful balmy weather in Cleveland, Ohio. And I want to thank Dr. Selico and the board for giving us an opportunity to actually showcase some live music. During the pandemic, it's been awful tough to try to showcase our students, and they're still working very hard. So I want to recognize Sydney Harkness. She's playing violin tonight. Nina Harvey playing violin as well. Lanaya Terry here on viola, which is a whole unique instrument of itself. William Handrick on cello, and Emily Garberick on double bass. And they're going to be playing a piece that features Lanai here in the viola section, which all tonight is her, called Viola Rampage. So enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
stand up one more time. Bedford Supreme Court Judge. Thank you, board. Welcome to board, on the board, and thank you, Dr. Silico.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols.
Excellent job.
Great job. Thank you.
This is awesome. That's right.
I think they deserve another hand.
Top that, Mr. Elder.
You have to sing now. I want you to sing now.
Mr. Waters can.
So I was telling Mr. Waters, I said, in fourth grade, I went out and I got my parents to buy me a trombone so that I could learn how to play. Once I learned that, I was done. Carrying that thing to school was the thing that deterred me from entering the music scene. So, well, for the new board members, welcome, congratulations. Congratulations, Madam President, thank you guys. So we are here to talk about the Goal 2, Equity and Social Justice. So I will kind of tell you a little bit of what you heard from Goal 1 and some of the changes that came about from the implementation. So what you have in front of you is the breakdown of the implementation guide. Mr. Vargas, myself, and Pastor Larry Macon, we are essentially working together on the Goal 2. And so we met early on before we started actually having large group meetings to take a look at the implementation guide, and we started the conversation of trying to figure out how we can break this down into bite-sized pieces. I mean, it's a lot. When you look at this document, the implementation is a lot, the planning is a lot. So we spent some time having some discussions around that. And in our first couple meetings with the large group, what we did was we really just had the conversations about this implementation guide and how we can actually break it down. So what you have in front of you is our Goal 2 guide and how we broke it down into subcommittees. So we looked at the 7 implementation strategies, and we kind of went by what people, comfort level and wheelhouse was. Mr. Vargas had already been doing the social justice, the community-based events with Pastor Macon. Pastor Macon has a passion for being able to provide the professional development in terms of equity and social justice for our staff. And my role in the district, one of the things that I also do is I'm over the federal programs and the grants. So what we did was we broke the group down to essentially the social justice community forum pieces, where you see with subcommittee 1, with Pastor Larry, looking at heading the implementation of staff development. And then subcommittee 2 was Mr. Waters' group and social justice, and my group that I would facilitate was subcommittee 3 over the finance of how we will then try to figure out how we can fund those activities that we're going to be doing. So we spent a lot of time over the course of the first couple meetings really kind of going over that. We have landed on a couple areas that we really have focused on in the last 2 to 3 meetings. One is in getting an understanding of the staff members that are here and their understanding of their own implicit bias. So there's been a lot of conversation around helping staff understand how that actually works. We have several community members that have been participating as they can, and again, we have those meetings, the first Monday, or second Monday of the month, unless there is a day off for that Monday at 4 o'clock. We do it virtually. What you'll see on this sheet here is also the dates that are actually, planned out up until May. The June meeting is to be announced. But to answer the question about that second 2.2 and why that moved to, 2.1 and why that moved to the first goal is we had some discussion in probably the second or third meeting around the overlap in doing a lot of things that the other committees had to, had some kind of, they touched upon just slightly. whereas we had already started the PD series for SEL and universal design, so it's not that it still isn't lying in what we're doing with social justice and equity, because there are some things that we're going to have to dig into that are a little bit different than what UDL and SEL provide. So that's why we're still keeping part of that. Our hope and goal is that those subcommittees will work with the subcommittees of the goal 1. The difference is that we established our subcommittees before they did, so as they establish their subcommittees and start digging into that work, our goal would be to have our subcommittees 1 working with the subcommittee of the first goal. And so, and that would even include, working with the communications goal as well. So, so we've done a lot of talk about implicit bias. We've actually done a lot of work around the development of a survey to inform decisions about where we want to go with our social justice initiatives as well as any of our staff development. In our last meeting, actually, Ms. Birch has offered to do some work around putting together some surveys, but we had some of our small groups already doing the homework. What we do is we use our Monday meetings to kind of review the work that's being done outside. We figured in 1 hour's time, we're not going to be able to direct social justice in this goal. So we're going to have to do some work outside of that hour, that once a month on that Monday. So the committees are meeting outside or doing some work or homework outside of that committee. We are utilizing a shared Google Drive, which I just got into development just this week, so that we can actually share information outside of the time that we're meeting on our Mondays. So, so we've done some work around developing a survey to help direct us towards getting some information from our community, our staff members, and our students about how they feel about social justice, what they would like to see. And so the homework that they've done is in doing some research behind various surveys that are out there. We landed on a couple, and our goal is by our next meeting to have those put together, and we will then share those with the other committee members and as well as the other committees. But I wanted Mr. Waters to talk a little bit about the social justice initiatives that we've already done thus far. As you all know, last year during the pandemic, we did a number of social justice events that Mr. Waters and his team led. So I'm going to have him speak to that and tell you a little bit about Pastor Nathan's role in what he's been doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Elder. I think my cursor moved. So, 3 quick points I would like to share with the board tonight. I'm over Subcommittee 2, and one of the things that came out of our Social Justice Committee was SCORE, which stands for Student Groups on Social Justice. Now, Bridget Ewing, who is a teacher, and actually this year she's at Carrollwood, and last year she was at Heskett. And so what she has been doing is she has put together actually a student group who have been speaking about social justice and equity. And so that's one of the outcomes from our committee from previous years that we heard from the students. So this is our second year doing panel discussions. And last year we did a couple panel discussions just really with the community. We did a really nice one dealing with having a hard conversation with race. And that was one where we had actually the staff and the community. We broke out in groups and things like that. Then this recent one of this year, we did the one with our parents. And so one of the things I want to stress that what we've been doing has kind of sort of been ebb and flow with the current events that's been taking place throughout the nation as well as throughout our district. So initially where the Social Justice Committee thought or idea came out of really was Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis began from the George Floyd. I believe she had spoken with Dr. Selico about, bridging that gap between, Bearcats bridging the gap between social justice. So that idea originated from that. I got that responsibility because I was doing the equity audit with the district. Kalisha and I, along with Mr. Butari and myself, we began to work with that, and we put together the cornerstones, and so it just kept beginning to evolve. So our panel discussions centered around basically current world events that were taking place, from the George Floyd event. Then we had another panel discussion when we lost a student And we began to talk about, and then we had our latest panel discussion with parents just regarding getting that parent help. So where I'm going with this is that our last, according to our data, our last component is that we have not spoken or listened to our students. So Mrs. Ewing is facilitating, this is her second year facilitating the social justice group. And so what are our thoughts and ideas, and I spoke to Pastor Larry this morning along with Ms. Ewing, is that we want to have a panel discussion that says you spoke and we responded. As in parents and students, you're a piece of the puzzle. So we've talked to parents, we've talked to community, we've had our staff, we've done some panel discussions within our admin building, things like that. But we have not spoken to our customer, our client, which is our students. So this next panel discussion will focus really around hearing from our students. And I kept looking for Mr. Nichols because a couple of our students who were in this quartet or sextet or whatever, the strings ensemble, quintet is the strings ensemble, they were in our student group this fall with Miss Gordon, the student ambassadors, student ambassadors. And so what we're looking at doing is planning something the second week in February, which is centered around Black History Month. And possibly the 8th or the 10th, and the reason why we looked at it is because I looked at most of our dates or panel discussions have been on Tuesday or Thursdays, but I'll check with Dr. Selko to make sure those dates are fine. But we're looking at maybe like the second or third week in February, which will give us enough time to plan and organize and get the word out to the community. And so that's where we're at pretty much with the subcommittee 2 on the Social Justice Equity Committee.
I have a couple questions.
Yes,
Mr. Wilson. I'm gonna work backwards. So with the Black History Month, do you already have a focus with that? I know you said you want to tie in the students. Is it just gonna be directly towards the students for
Yes,
Black History Month?
the folks will be we want to hear from the students.
Okay.
We want to hear from them. I'll give you an example. We talked to the parents what we needed their help in for whether it be equity or school climate. We've talked to the staff, regarding having those discussions around race, as well as connecting with our students, bridging that gap. I have to give credit where credit is due. Mrs. Lewis talked about bridging the cultural gap of our teachers understanding our kids, that cultural gap, not just a racial gap, but the cultural gap. We have kids who were born in 2008 now, and so there's a cultural gap. But this time it will be student focused. Ms. Ewing will be assisting. I still will facilitate it. Pastor Larry will create questions and things like that. But the focus will be, we want to hear from our students. We want to hear from them. What is it that you need from us? How are you feeling in the classroom? What can we do to make your educational environment as well as your school environment or physical environment more conducive for learning? So that we're going to bridge that gap. Like I said, we've talked to our parents, we've talked to our staff, we've talked to the community. But our most important thing, the reason why we are here, all of us are here, for our kids, and we have yet to speak to our students and get this data and the surveys from here and then. So I think we really need to do that this year.
So with Ms. Ewing, you said she's at what school, Carrollwood?
Ms. Ewing, yes, she's at
So
Carrollwood.
is her group at Carrollwood, or is it?
It's still her current group is at the middle school, but I believe she's trying to get students from the high school as well, and she's still working on that.
Okay, all right. And I know also you mentioned about an equity audit.
Yes.
What were the results from that? Or what are you deciding? Where is that? What prompted that? What are you using the metrics for? How is that being of an assistance?
So the equity audit has been going on for some time. Initially, Ms. Willis had that several years ago. I believe it's just a component through ESC that's according to our data, where we're at academically. And so this year, last year was my first year being involved in it. I do have an entire presentation on the equity audit. The short of it is the outcomes have been consistent, where our special students with IEPs are being, disciplined more heavily than our students with non-IEPs. And please forgive me, I'm sharing this information off the top of my head from reviewing it several times. So I don't have specific numbers, but in general, our African American students, males, are being disciplined higher than other, what's the word I want to use? Other races, just to say what it is, So our African American men are being suspended at a higher rate than our Caucasian males. boys are suspended more than girls. It's a 10-year reflection of data. Data. Like I said, I did a presentation for cabinet some time ago, along with where we were, where we're at, and what we need to do to bridge that gap.
And will we be able to see that presentation, or will we be able to do that at a later time so we can get some more understanding? I know it doesn't want to take all the time for that portion, but I think there should be a conversation around that.
And actually, and Ms. Birch, I did share that information with Heskett Middle School. Pastor Larry had did a presentation, and I shared some of that information out of that as well, but I can do that with the superintendent's permission.
Thank you. Any questions?
2 questions. One, when you're gonna have the panel discussion and looking at something for Black History Month, are you looking at, or consider working with the local, like, police departments, and maybe having someone from them kind of be able to answer questions from the students?
We have had discussion on bridging that gap. Truthfully, the initial was we wanted to have a tough discussion with our police departments. We know, obviously, you know that we have 4 different police departments within our communities. So we were not looking at that for this particular panel discussion. However, we have had some discussion regarding having a discussion with our police department specifically to bridge that gap. One of the things I do want to share, we did a video, actually Dr. Selko did a video, beginning when we began to announce our social justice movement. And in the video, she does have Officer Francis speaking in a positive light, you know, regarding that, the police and the community relationship. Also, if I may, when we were at the high school, Officer Francis held several assemblies and PDs and discussions with our students around the beginning of the year and around prom. And some of the discussions really, and this is before George Floyd and all that, were centered around that police and community relationship. So I know at the high school, he has been doing things like that as an SRO.
Okay. And then second question involving the equity audit, are we comparing our results to other school districts that have a similar makeup?
Great question. The audit that I'm looking at have not been in comparison to Maple or Shaker. I know it's been just over the years as far as what we've done. I can check with the gentleman at ESC to see if they're actually comparing it like Bedford versus Maple or Bedford versus Warrensville and what that data is. I know the data that I have really has been, you know, over the 10 years from 2011 to 2021. Here's what we've been doing.
Okay.
But I can get that position.
I got 2 additional questions. Okay. One last thing with I'm sorry. With the police, and what was your response with that when you reached out to all 4 communities?
I did not personally.
Oh, you didn't do it. Okay.
I did not reach out to personally to them to get that started. But I do know that when we did the video, Officer Francis did not have a challenge with sharing, you know, their stance, at least BPD stance, with joining us in the social justice movement.
Thank you.
I just have one question.
Yes,
I want to know, how are you going to promote this next meeting in February to our students?
Gotcha. So Mrs. Ewing would be on that. That would be her role and responsibility to promote it amongst the students. I'm sorry, Ms. Ewing and Ms. Gordon, because at our last panel discussion meeting, we did have a couple students from the student ambassador group, and so I charged Mrs. Gordon and Mrs. Ewing to get the students be involved. I have not met with Mrs. Dick, so she is very unaware of all of this, but I will meet with Mrs. Dick to get it out to the community. As far as the students, that charge has been given to Ms. Gordon and Ms. Ewing. And tentatively, just being very transparent off the top of our head, and I haven't got a chance to discuss with everyone, I'd like to get a panel discussion with about 3 to 5 students at the high school or the middle school, and air it live so that we can Zoom it versus everyone on Zoom, to have that panel discussion. And really just have a conversation with the students so that the community can hear from them and what they need.
I was just concerned, I just want students to tune in.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, they need to hear what their peers or colleagues are saying. I want to make sure that they know about it and they can tune in.
Yes, ma'am. So we would, with Dr. Selico's permission, we would definitely have the principals begin to put the message out in their weekly messages as well, from where so the students can log on. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Elder wanted me to speak to the circles that we did at the high school and middle school. We had ESC first ring pupil services meeting today, and we was able to report out how effective those restorative circles have been. I know in anything, I've said this before, we want a home cooked meal in microwavable time, but sometimes things takes a little bit of time, okay? And so, sorry. So, I'm sorry, no one said yes. So, I said, may I? No one said yes. So, so we started off with the restorative practice circles, really at the high school. And we've had our SEL team members trained, counselors have gone through it. When I say our counselors, even at the intermediate levels, Mr. Brinson, Mr. Bambrick, Mr. Huff, they have been trained in restorative practice. So long story short, when the high school came back, what we did was we organized pretty much an entire school restorative circle. And we took the first 2 days of school entry and did restorative circles. And the students were so appreciative and very engaged. Several of the ensemble here was part of that, very engaged, wanted more circles. They were very appreciative of, in fact, one of the questions of scoldings was, why didn't you all come to us first and talk to us? And so they were very appreciative of that. And to my understanding, the high school has not had an incident or many incidents since we begun this restorative circle. Now, the second component was the middle school. After we had the event at the middle school with the lockdown situation, we did the same thing at the middle school. And I was sharing with Dr. Johnson today, being at Heskett yesterday, and even prior to our Christmas break or just the MLK break, the feel of the building is very much more welcoming, very warm, very safe. The students were very kind. A student gave us a compliment like, hey, you guys are cool, come here to support. They didn't feel threatened or scared or anything like that. And so I do know at Carrollwood and Columbus, they have been doing a lot of restorative practice circles. At the high school, and I believe the middle school is about to adopt this strategy, is where if and when a student has been disciplined, when they come back, they must go through a restorative practice circle. So that they'll meet with the social worker or the therapist or counselor or the administrator and go through that restorative practice circle. Last point, and I shared this with our pupil services group today. Restorative circles or restorative practices does not mean that you negate traditional consequences. And some people have begun to think that restorative practice eliminates or takes away traditional consequences. It does not. In fact, they say you still should give traditional consequences, but the overall goal and objective for restorative practice is to change the behavior, to change the mindset, so that when I do mess up, I won't do that again. And I have the mindset and understanding to change that behavior, not go back. So we've been really preaching that restorative practice does not mean a student cannot receive a traditional consequence. And so I think we've been getting that. And I think we've begun to see the fruits of our labor. There is another restorative practice component coming up February 17th or 18th, I believe. And so I'm going to get the word out to those other counselors and SEL members who have not been trained. When I went to the training in Michigan, one thing I did notice that many of the SEL and administrators were trained as a trainer for restorative practice, and it was really helpful in their district.
Well, we want to thank our pupil services.
Thank you.
Mr. Albert and
Me? Huh?
Oh, no, I was wondering if you were Mr. Elder and Mr. Walters, and especially Mr. Walters, I know that you've had some loss in your family.
Yes, thank
so
you.
We appreciate you and Mr. Elder being in person with everything that's going on with you and the board office.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll have our communication strategy next. this is Denise Dick. She's been with us for a few months. She's hit the ground running. Thank you, Denise.
Good evening, board members, Chairwoman Boynton, Vice Chair Mrs. Birch, and Mr. Akins. I'll be brief. I was told, but anyway, these are hard acts to follow. So, as mentioned, I did goal 3 along with Mr. Humphrey, and it's increased communication and engagement with all BCSD school stakeholders. And the strategies for that are, I don't want to read to you, but assess and establish a master list of existing communication and engagement tools, develop a status dashboard that provides a visual and tracking mechanism, maintain an internal master schedule of events, distribute a personal email to local, state, and federal lawmakers, and engage local businesses to identify opportunities for collaboration to enhance student academic experiences. So I think we're pretty well on track with the first one, the assessing and establishing a master list. The second one, developing a dashboard, is very much in development. That's something that's probably going to be developed more as the process goes along. And I'd say we're probably pretty well on track with 3 and 4, and number 5 is ongoing, probably not as far along in the development. We meet on the second Monday of the month. We meet at 3:30 via Google Meet, and that's we had been meeting at 4, but it worked better for the people involved to meet at 3:30. But that's flexible. If more people want to be involved, we can change that. Our next meeting is February 14th. We have about 7 members that are actually active, and primarily that's staff. We do have 1 parent who's very involved, but we are open and would be thrilled to have more parents or community members who do want to be involved. So if there are any, please contact me or refer them to me if you know anybody. That's pretty much all I had. If anybody has any questions.
I just hope that we can come up with more ways to involve our parents, our community, because to me this is just as important as everything else that we've been going over. Right. And we need to promote parental involvement. I don't know if this meeting time is the best time, 3:30. If we want a lot of community members to be involved, it's not it's just my personal opinion. We need to have some ways really to reach out to our families so they can get the information that about all of our presentations that was done tonight, all of these committees. I think I wouldn't say we've done a poor job, but we just need to do more. So I have to actually look over this because we're a lot of time here. So we can have more questions, maybe offer some ideas. So I'm asking anybody in the community that's listening, and all of these presentations that was done tonight, all these committees and subcommittees, it really does take a village. Right. And we need you. We need you. We need you to be involved in the academic part, the communication part, the SEL, the social justice. We need you. And if these times don't work with you, call, notify Dr. Soloco or the committee chairs and say, could we be a little more flexible with the time? I want to be more involved. The time doesn't work for me, and I just want to put that out there. If we want people to be involved, we really have to look beyond our own schedule, the committee directors or the people that are in charge. We really have to look at everybody's schedule, come up with a time. 3:30, everybody's working. 4 o'clock, still working. Most people are working 4:30. So I just want you to, kind of keep that in mind.
Right, and we're flexible on the time. If it doesn't, we can certainly change it.
And I'd just like to continue on what Mrs. Boynton was saying. So Denise and I have had conversations about the need for increasing parental involvement as a goal for her. But it makes sense, I think, to say what Mrs. Boynton is saying is to what we were saying earlier about adding another goal. I think your group, I would give that recommendation to consider your goal, adding a goal here that's specific to parent engagement. So that would be the feedback I would give for your group.
Okay. Thank you.
And ask Mr. Meyer.
I also have a handout. Not too formal. Good evening once again, Madam President, Madam Vice President, Mr. Akins, Dr. Seligo. So I am very privileged to be the chairperson of this particular goal. When you look at our goal 4 statement, to equitably increase access to safe, high-quality facilities, equipment, and technology for all BCSD stakeholders. And if you look back at when we started this process in 2020 to now, every single one of those has had to have action items that have moved the needle already. We've been challenged in real time to create and implement strategies in all of these categories. And a lot of our work thus far, we have been briefing each other as a group in our meetings, and also trying to maintain that strategic focus so that we can meet our strategies. And just to touch briefly on the strategies, Goal 4.1, review current plans. Our plans were created, our facilities plan, our technology plan, and what has been ongoing, our safety plan. A lot of them were in place before COVID-19 and before some of the events that we've experienced here recently, before our equity initiatives even. So our team has already been meeting to review the existing plans for technology. We've recently onboarded my co-chairs, so they got to be present at their first meeting last week in January. So we brought on Dan Humphrey to co-chair the technology committee, Phil Stevens Jr. to co-chair the facilities committee, and Thad Heedy, who is our new security supervisor, to co-chair the safety committee. So moving forward, those subcommittees are going to meet, and they're going to be able to make a lot of progress in evaluating these plans that are going to contribute to 4.3. I don't want to skip over 4.2, so just to go that direction, that's more of a technology initiative of community internet access, and that's probably the one we've made the least progress on, specifically because our partnership with the county and PCs for People provided wireless internet access for our stakeholders through the end of this year. So we will need to look at that very shortly, and that's going to be on our technology subcommittee agenda for their next meeting. And all those subcommittee agenda meetings are there, and we are more than welcome to have you participate if you would like to join us. Engaging a broad group of stakeholders. Now that the plans are coming together, the security subcommittee will be reviewing our staff security procedures and policies, and we're going to be looking at those together, as well as providing that input as a small group, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop there. Because 4.4 is update safety and security protocols to ensure they are informed by research-based best practices in equity and social justice. And we have had to have a crash course in security protocols and safety procedures. It has really been, and it's no secret to anyone in this room, a challenge to do those things in such a short period of time. And I'm thrilled to be able to have Thad on the team, and we're really looking forward to be able to get that strategy implemented. And then 4.5, identify secure resources for implementation. We've done a great job of this as well. We've taken advantage of the Emergency Connectivity Fund to get money for Chromebooks. We've taken advantage of our ESSER funding for both security and technology initiatives. And our Capital Improvements Fund has been increased mainly due to the sale of Aurora. And that subcommittee has just completed a survey that's going to go out to staff, and they will be working on what was already one of our initiatives, was a public-facing capital improvements document. And I believe we presented on this a couple board meetings ago, but we want to be able to have that document available for the community to be able to give us feedback. What do we want as a community to put that money into? When you look at equity, our students deserve to have the facilities that other school districts have. And so we want to be able to provide that. And we're in a very fortunate situation with the sale of Aurora that we have those funds available right now. But it can't be done in isolation. And so that brings us right back to 4.3, where that broad group of stakeholders is going to be able to review what we have as a public-facing capital improvements document so that we can make the best decisions available to us. And so those are the things that the subcommittees will be working on. On page 2 of the handout, you can see the rosters there. We have 5 parents, I think 4 of which have been very active. I know some of them have expressed that the time has been an issue because they work, and we even have a former student. Not quite a parent yet. Michael Britton, who has just recently graduated. He's awesome. We love having him in our subcommittees. So with that, I'd invite any questions you may have.
Not really a question, but I do, just so you know, I would like to be involved with the subcommittee on the technology portion. So I would like to be able to help with that.
Great.
But in terms of the strategies itself, I had a question on the Chromebooks. How was the turn-in of Chromebooks from the previous year? Was there an issue with that? Just obtaining all of our technology back from the students that graduated?
Our technology department has done a really great job with inventory and managing who was assigned what Chromebook.
Okay.
So throughout the summer, we were able to be in contact with those who didn't bring technology back. We also planned for a lot of repairs to be done for damaged Chromebooks. And I believe that, well, it was a monumental feat. I mean, our guys repaired several hundred, and I don't have the exact figures in front of me, but we were able to do all of that over the summer. So were there problems with it? Were there things that we could iron out and do better? Absolutely. It was the first time anything like that had been attempted. But yes, we were able to get those in. I think the majority of them did come back, and those that didn't, we were able to either contact them or put a technology obligation on for them until they are able to return it.
Okay, and I have one quick question too. About 4.2, about the community access to high-speed broadband internet. Are you working with the various city councils of the 4 communities to try to implement that?
In June, we had a meeting with the mayors and AT&T, we were trying to arrange for emergency connectivity funds to be used to be able to pay for internet at home. Unfortunately, nothing matriculated from those meetings, and so I think that one of the next steps would be to reach out to our city councils and again to our mayors to find different avenues for providing that internet access in our communities.
I just had a question to 4.4. With those new plans and things that you are deciding to do with reviewing them, do you have some focus already towards what you are already planning? Has there been some community engagement on future plans?
Well, we've been able to utilize the feedback that we received over the last several months from the community to shape these plans and to make sure that our security protocols and procedures are based in what we call our positive behavior interventions and supports, as well as our CPI crisis prevention. And we want to focus on relationships between those who are performing security roles in our school district and our students and our parents as well. So that is our focus. And moving forward, I am confident that Mr. Heedy has all of those intentions and focus in mind. And one of the things he's charged with over the next several months is revamping that, making sure the training evolves around relationships so that when our students see our security officers, it's not this authoritarian relationship. It's something where they know that that person is there with their best interest in mind, but is also there to keep everybody safe.
Have we also engaged the SEL team within that component as well?
They have not been directly involved in this stage with myself and Mr. Heedy and our committee, no. But it is a great suggestion, and I would definitely recommend that to them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James, I just want to say, as I look at your co-chairs in facility technology and safety. I think you have a very good crew. You can see the work that's being done now. They're really, really hard workers, and you can tell because of all the things that's been going on this last month. So I want to really applaud your co-chairs for all the work they're doing. Mr. Stevens, Mr. Humphrey, and Mr. Heedy. So thank you, and of course you. But I just wanted to mention that because you can actually see everything that they're doing. Thank you, Dan, for technology. Yeah.
Thank you. So Mr. Stevens was here. I think he had to step out, but he was here too. So I was lucky to have two of my co-chairs here.
Yeah, so thank you, and thank you for appearing in person. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you again, board.
All right, we've learned a lot, and I hope the community is listening and taking notes and looking at what committee they want to be a part of. We just want you to be involved. It's open. We welcome you. Please, please, please call us. We're here. They're here. And we just want to work as a team to make our school the best. All right, superintendent's report. Oh, thank you. Superintendent's report. Dr. Sullivan?
Actually, Mrs. Boynton, before we do that, I've asked Dr. Johnson to just give you an update on Haskett and the high school.
I'm so sorry.
That's totally fine. I was
No, that's okay. Let me
excited
just.
about like the music and listening to all the kids.
I'm sorry, 2.04.
I'm so okay with that.
A presentation on returning to the Haskett and the high school. We just want to hear about all these great things. I do apologize.
No,
I was excited about it. All right.
That's okay. Thank you so much, Mrs. Boynton, Board President, Vice President, Board Member. I hope it's okay. I know it says on the agenda to talk about the middle school and high school, but I just also want to just talk a little bit. I've reached out to all the principals to kind of ask how things were going. I know often we spend a lot of time talking about our middle school and high school, but we forget about our baby buildings. So just a little bit, I did Miss Black at Glendale, was very excited to have the kids back. The staff is very excited to have the kids back. She shared that, you know, since upon their return, they've had minimal referrals, minimal quarantines. She's very thankful to the support team and everything they've done to restock the PPE. And she stated that the plexiglass and everything's all stocked up in every classroom. As well as Central, Miss Winston, plenty of PPE stocked up, plexis in every classroom. She also wanted to share that they added a fourth lunch with the kids of spots so that they could best ensure social distancing while the kids have their masks off. At Columbus Intermediate, Mr. Huff and Ms. Reed said there were just a couple referrals upon return. Again, plexiglass dividers are in every classroom. They're appreciative of the assistance in restocking all the PPE to make sure that they're all good to go there. And at Carrollwood as well, Ms. Rakoski said they had a great return to school. She was very excited to see the students. Again, PPE in great shape. Plexiglass in every classroom. She did say that they're working on replacing some things that are scratched up, but she is very appreciative of everyone and assisting them to replace that. At Haskett, I want to say major kudos just as we had at the high school upon their restart. The staff, administrators, the parents have been great through this transition back to Haskett Middle School. Though things aren't perfect, Mr. Thompson said that, you know, that we're heading in the right direction. They appreciate your support as a board, Dr. Selico, the directors for all the support and help and visibility in that building. I will tell you, when you come in the morning, the staff, even though it's been freezing cold, they're outside, they're in the hallways, they're visible after school. So much kudos to that teaching staff, administrative staff, security, and everyone. I know you asked Mr. Meyer about the components of SEL in the security department, though you might not have officially done any training. I will tell you the tone in that building, how students are talked to and approached. Mr. Heedy has had a huge impact on ensuring that we're heading in the right direction. That's really been amazing to see, as Mr. Waters talked about. When you're walking in the hallways, there's an expectation of respect on all sides, from students to adults, adults to students. So that is very, very nice to see. In terms of the behaviors in the building, I know we talked a lot about the metal detectors and installation. As Mr. Heedy promised us, he said, you know, it's gonna, you know, just as at the high school, it's gonna be slow. You know, that first week, the students are gonna be slow. They didn't have the book bags and things like that. So over the past couple of days, things have really sped up with them adding metal detectors. Right now they have 3, the goal is to have 5, he shared, and he believes that's really gonna assist us. Again, when I got there today, the tardy bell had already been rung. They had already taken down the back metal detectors in the back entrance, and kids were in classrooms. In addition to assisting with that, I think Mr. Thompson, if not tonight, tomorrow he'll let the parents know the book bags will be permitted starting next week. They just wanted to get the kids acclimated, but he has listened to the students, he's listened to the parents. He and Mr. Heedy think that that will also assist the students because they're carrying things, they're trying to get in. That'll speed up the lines as well. In terms of the PPE, they also are doing some replacements. The high school had some extras. So Phil Stevens Jr. and Will Siggers have talked to the high school to get some extras to help them replace whatever they need to be replaced at the middle school to ensure that we have every classroom covered for the desk. But other than that, they felt that things were going in the right direction. As well as I think Mr. Waters already talked about a lot of the restorative circles and things like that that are going on. Mr. Thompson talked about doing some zones of regulation in the morning, some during their wind time, in the middle of the day. They've narrowed down if there are aggressive behaviors when that has occurred. They've looked at the data. So as we know, it's those unstructured times, your cafeteria, passing in the hallway, things like that. So that's what they're really trying to focus on. At the high school, things are going very well, as Mr. Waters talked about. A lot of work went into that reboot, restart, kids coming back, getting them involved and being ambassadors in the building. Ms. Lewis said things are not perfect, but they're heading in the right direction. Minimal aggressive behaviors, and when they also are using those restorative circles to get students back to where they need to be. Again, talking to Mr. Heedy, metal detectors, things are going very well. Again, teachers are very visible before school, in the hallways, which is always very, very helpful. So that is what I wanted to share.
I have a comment. As a parent of Heskett students, I definitely appreciate that the book bags are being allowed again, because that's an issue in the morning for us, and I'm pretty sure for many other parents as well. I also appreciate the updated discipline that's been added for Heskett. I believe that that will help with these situations there. My only thing is I would urge them to look into, when it comes to fighting, the victim of that maybe shouldn't get as much of a punishment because they're just defending themselves. They may not have initiated the fight, so I would just urge that to be kind of looked into. But other than that, I do like the updated discipline.
Yes, I would say, basically just to also reiterate what Mr. Waters talked about. You know, the conversations that I've had with Mr. Thompson and his team, as well as the SEL team, is it really is about changing behaviors in addition to that. So it's one thing to have those high expectations, say you're going to be suspended, but they're going to come back. So what have we done to support our students upon their return so that they're not repeating those same behaviors? I know Mr. Elder and your department have worked a lot on that. But that also comes with working with our families, to seeing what we can do to best support the whole family and the needs of the whole child. Mr. Thompson totally agrees. They spent a lot of time talking to students, and I think that's one of the things that has worked the best are those relationships that are being established with the students. They're coming and being proactive to say, I'm having this issue with this other student, or so-and-so approached me and I walked away. And over the past couple of days, it's been amazing to see the positive reinforcement, you know, of the staff, Mr. Thompson, the SEL team, say, you know what, I really appreciate you. I know that was very tough for you to walk away, so-and-so's in your face, but you walked away. Or we're not asking somebody to be pounded on, but if you need to protect yourself or whatever they have, they are looking into that. They're looking at the cameras, working with the security team to ask questions, get those witness statements, to ensure that as much as possible, you know, that they are looking at the differences between the aggressor. And that's why I think in Mr. Waters and Mr. Thompson talked about an assault versus a fight and things of that nature. So I think that we definitely agree.
I concur, with Mr. Akins, additionally being a parent with kids at Heskett, and I do thank you for the new things that you are indicating with that. If we can just continue to take the approach of understanding that responsive behaviors come out of unmet needs. They're need-based responses most of the time when they are responding in that way. So I like the fact that we're bringing in the restorative circles, so that the relationship is built a little differently, because the perception isn't always the same on either side. So it's good when you can bring them together and let them speak and understand each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. I'm very, very happy with the progress we've made at all our buildings, and you're right, we do focus a lot on the high school in Heskett, and we have to remember all of our schools, that we are one team. So thank you for the report. Appreciate it. And now, Superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Boynton. I have one item for your consideration this evening, and I appreciate your patience with this, and I know that it came in a little late, and again, we apologize for that, but we wouldn't want our students, and I know you feel the same way, to miss out on this opportunity, which would be, and so I thank you for allowing us to slip it in. But it is, it's a field trip request, and just for our new board members, our policy states that anything, any overnight trips gets board approval, but also out of state. So this trip is going to be out of state. The students are looking to go to Bowling Green. These are our students of promise going to Bowling Green State University, and then over to the African American Museum in Detroit, and it's a day trip, so there won't be an overnight, but we certainly would like our children to take advantage of that, to see the college experience as well as the museum as an added bonus. So I am asking for your approval, and the details are provided. Thank you.
Can I have a motion, please?
I make a motion to go ahead and to approve the students on the field trip, student friends.
Second.
A second.
It has been moved by Ms. Birch and seconded by Mr. Akins. Roll call, please. Oh, discussion.
I say go have fun and take in the whole experience. I've been to that museum when I was here at the high school with museums and TLC, so that's a wonderful experience. And I also attended BG, so go have fun. So enjoy.
Maybe you should go along, Mrs. Birch.
Oh, I definitely support the children getting exposed to post-elementary, post-high school options, and having the experience to see the African American History Museum will definitely be a good benefit.
Thank you.
I'm so excited for all the things that school promises to us.
Yes,
Really, really great
good
program.
stuff.
Really good stuff. My kids exposed to a lot. Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Birch,
Yes.
Mr. Akins,
Yes.
and Mrs. Boynton.
Yes. Motion passed. 3.
Yep, 3-0.
3-0. I'm just getting used to the protocol.
You're doing great. You're doing great.
So, actually, we are going, this is the end of our meeting, and we'll be going into executive session. And, can I have a motion to go into executive session, please?
I make a motion to enter into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee.
I second that.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Birch,
Yes.
Mr. Akins,
Yes.
Mrs. Boynton.
Yes. Motion approved, 3-0. So I would like to thank everybody for joining us, and please come back to our next meeting, which is February 3rd. We thank you. Anytime you can join us, please just come in person or view us online. Thank you.